And welcome to another Biddle on Saturday, August 10th. Kind of seems like we did this earlier. Just saying. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Great.
Good. Andy.
All right.
Gravy, as they say.
Biscuits and gravy, Zeb.
Biscuits.
We are here talking about Endeavour OS, and we just happen to have Brian here. He is the project lead for
Hi.
Endeavour OS. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
Well, if you watched the Biddle Europe edition, you've seen he was on there, and he was gracious enough to come back. I'm not sure exactly why, but he was. So what we're going to do a little bit differently this right now, we are going to pretty much give him a couple questions to answer about Endeavour, and then we will go into our normal distro challenge type comments from everybody. So if anybody has any questions on YouTube, you can put them in the chat, and we will try to get them answered. But other than that, Brian, you were inspired by Antergos to start Endeavour OS. Why is it that you started it?
Well, when Antergos announced their end, it was actually my intention to make a forum and to keep the community, because the community, the Antergos community was great. It still is. But then Joe, Fernando, and Manuel joined me, and they came up with, hey, let's do a distro. And that's how Endeavour OS actually got born.
Very nice. So what is the main goal of Endeavour OS now that it is born?
It's an opportunity to learn Arch the right way. And with the right way, I mean to learn it through the terminal without pre-installed apps like Paymac or Octopi. We have no objections if you do install it. But from Joe, Fernando, and I were moderators at the Antergos forum, and we noticed that a lot of people who started out with Antergos, well, they used Paymac, but when there was a problem, they couldn't solve it. And the community was always putting out the terminal commands. And everyone in the Antergos community took it. They took it very, everyone, how do you say it?
Accepted it?
They accepted it, yes. And that's how we got the idea to make Endeavour more terminal-based.
Cool. So you mentioned that you wanted to keep the forum alive.
Yeah.
So how did that get changed into making an ISO, and how did you drum up interest from your other forum members? I mean, was there anybody in particular who jumped forward? Now I'm guessing it's going to be the other two guys you mentioned, but what was the reaction when you said let's create a forum? Did somebody else go, no, let's create a distro?
Well, when I put out let's create a forum and let's stay together, the reaction was overwhelming. I mean, the whole community at that time, I mean, I just posted it, I think, well, a day after the Antergos announced their end. And the whole community was very enthusiastic about it. And when Joe and Fernando and Manuel joined me, they came up with the distro idea. And the well, like it had to be like that. Sorry, I had two wines.
It's all good.
Fernando already made an ISO based on Antergos, but an offline installer. And we based Endeavour OS on his Antergos ISO. So that's how it all got rolling.
Cool.
Well, I am sorry to make you repeat yourself because I asked this question earlier, Brian. But I think it's a really important one that, and I'll just reiterate. So I'd asked on the Europe edition about the longevity of the project. So obviously the shock of Antergos ending, there have probably been some people that have been turned off by that and maybe have switched to different distributions. That's, that is what it is. You can't really stop that. But, with people investing their time and energy in installing and getting behind a project, what are your plans for, keeping this going, making sure that you guys have a cadence and are, able to support the project ongoing?
Well, that's a thing we, the four of us, discussed with each other, and especially me. I was asking the question, okay, we're going to do this distro. It's going to be a lot of work. I mean, the Antergos devs, they ended it not without a reason. I mean, they didn't have any time to maintain it anymore. So we asked each other, can we do this? Because the Antergos community, and we're very lucky that a lot of the Antergos community followed us. We can't endure them to another shock. Let's call it a shock of putting out two releases and then say, okay, it's done. So we asked ourselves, can we do it? And we all said, okay, we're going to commit with this one. And the only thing we're going to do different is to be open to the community and to let other community members in the team, because that was, well, I think then, that's my opinion, the Antergos devs' major mistake, not to let other people into the team.
Great.
So you've been going a couple of months now, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Are you maybe beginning to regret what you started now that you've seen how much work is involved?
No, absolutely not. And that surprises us every day. We get so inspired by the love we receive from the community. So that's fuel for us to go on, and our enthusiasm is almost endless at this moment.
Excellent.
Very nice. Well, I want to mention something that you had mentioned earlier. One of the reasons why you started Endeavour and one of the reasons why you continue it is the community. And I think this is so important right now because Linux has had in the past a bad reputation as far as a community is concerned. And we've been trying to do everything we can to make that better. But when you find a distro that their main push is the community, that is one awesome thing.
That's what I also thought. And that's I was a distro hopper before I used Antergos. And when I came into the Antergos community, it was like a warm bath. They are so loving. And when the devs said, we're going to end this project, I felt almost obliged, that the need to carry on this great community. I mean, there are a lot of Arch-based distros out there, and we admit that what we present isn't very unique. The most unique part about us is this tight, loving, dynamic community, and that's what it's all about. It's not the distro itself, it's the community.
I love that. That is absolutely awesome, and we need more of that in the Linux community.
Yeah, absolutely. But On the other hand, I think we had it easy because Antergos said, call it a day. We had a good learning school with Antergos and with the community, of course.
I had a question in regards to stemming from Antergos. And I was curious because even though it was born from the decline or death or whatever of Antergos, you kept the community, you brought things over, and you helped things continue to thrive. I was wondering what your opinion on the significance of also separating yourself from Antergos would be, because the experience isn't quite the same. There are significant differences as to what Endeavour is versus what Antergos was. Yeah. And how you plan on handling that, because people might jump in thinking it's supposed to be like Antergos, even though it's a different project.
We're very aware that, and especially we didn't anticipate on this big media exposure from the beginning. But in the media, especially in the beginning, we are often called as the Antergos successor, and that is not true, because from day one, from the day we presented our plan to the community, it was very, very, very clear that we were going to walk another path than Antergos did. The reason why we chose for that was because Antergos had a repo, a known repo that had a lot of out-of-date packages, and it wasn't maintained very well. We understand why it wasn't maintained, because there was only 3 people who were doing that, and we're with the 4 of us. And if we would take Antergos, the old Antergos repo, and put it into Endeavour, I think Endeavour wouldn't be there. It's so much work. So that's the reason why we decided, okay, let's ditch that one and let's go another path. Also, there's another project, Reborn OS, that's also derived from Antergos, and we worked together with them. And it was from day one, it was always the goal to separate, to have a main difference between Reborn and Endeavour OS. So that's why we chose this bare path.
Awesome.
You mentioned
a lot of questions.
Sorry, Chicken.
No.
Yeah, you mentioned the media attention, which I saw that you actually, I believe it was you on Twitter, or whoever from the Endeavour Twitter account had said that you were surprised at the amount of attention. And you had also mentioned in the BitDL Europe show, someone had commented on how nicely you've themed your initial release with XFCE and really putting time and attention into that first impression. And more and more, I'm starting to realize how important that is. And I think that if you had people, get downloading the ISO and just even firing it up in a VM and looking and saying, wow, this looks like it's really well put together. I think you probably had some initial attraction and attention just from that alone. So kudos to, and I'm sorry, I forget the gentleman's name that you said was working on the theming, but Joe, yeah, fantastic job on that.
Yeah.
Brian, I just wanted to ask Brian, with the installer Calamares, it does recommend to actually use gparted prior to the installer. Is that because you've recognized some issues with Calamares, or that's just the... Yes, okay.
Yeah, but there's an upstream problem with Calamares. We're not the only ones. Arco Linux has the same problem, and it has to be addressed by the Calamares devs. We're going to work together with the Calamares devs, and that's what Manjaro is also doing. So we're trying to tackle that, but it's an upstream problem.
Yeah, I've noticed that with a lot of distros that use Calamares, there is issues. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Probably depends on the version, I suppose.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing is, how long can you see your plan of having, and I'm not sure how you're going to do that, but you are going to implement 10 desktop environments to be installed through Endeavour OS. Is that going to be done through Calamares or separate ISOs or in the installer itself?
We're at the moment, and it's in a very advanced stadium. We're doing it with the net installer from Calamares, and it's looking very, very well.
Cool. Did you settle on? It is Calamares. Okay, yep.
Yeah.
So you're not going to use Cinchi or anything like that. That was a possibility. No. Okay.
No. Cinchi was a mess.
Yes, I agree.
I'm not going to, but it was really a mess. It was our intention to use it, but we really had to rewrite it because it was so baked in the Antergos ecosystem, and none of us knew a lot of Python to do that kind of thing. So that's the reason why we chose Calamares. And the other reason is also because we chose Calamares for our offline installer. Early fall, we hope to release the net installer. Then it's going to be a one installer. So the user can choose either the online installer or the offline installer just by a simple click.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Brian, a message from the YouTube chat, or a question, I should say, from the YouTube chat. Mitchell asked, what is the most unexpected thing about maintaining a distro? What has surprised you the most about it?
A lot. You have to understand that none of us, except Fernando, knew anything. I mean, Joe is a cook. Manuel is doing this for a hobby, and coding isn't my strongest suit. So we're learning every day, and the surprise, I think, the big surprise is how forgiving the community is. Because when we announced the project, we announced it essentially initially with the Kinchi or Cinchi installer, and that didn't work out. And we announced it that we were going to launch it with an offline installer only. And especially me, I was expecting a lot of, hate about that one. But the community was so forgiving, and I think that was the most surprising thing from all of it.
Yep. Anybody else? Do it.
Yeah. So, what aside from the community are you hoping survives this transition? I guess from Antergos to Endeavour. You mentioned the community already. I'm just wondering what other sort of core principles or whatever are going to make their way in.
Well, first of all, to get rid of the Antergos stamp we have, because we're not Antergos. That's very clear now. But yeah, I know I mentioned the community, but this distro is all about the community. And the community is already participating in on GitHub. They're trying their best to help us on the ISO, but also I'm also planning to make a sort of newsletter in a magazine kind of way to explain the Arch commands and to highlight some apps, and I want to release that one every quarter. And there is a lot of there are a lot of people who already showed interest to help me with that one.
I had a
Do it.
Good, Bill. Oh, I thought I heard Bill.
No.
So I had a question about the live installer. So you had mentioned that was something that was coming later this year. And I think when people think, and I know you're trying to, move on from Antergos, but when I think of Antergos and sort of the magic or the special feature of Antergos was the live installer, where I could choose my desktop environment as I was installing from a single download. And I always thought that was pretty special. So I know you have plans to bring something like that forward. When did you think you would have something like that available?
Early fall.
Early fall, okay.
Yeah.
There was another question in the YouTube chat, but I think this was more based upon you personally rather than Endeavour. They wanted to know, were you heavily involved in Antergos before? And I know you've steeped on this slightly, or were you an Arch user in general? And what's your Linux background? You mentioned something about being a hopper and then stopped.
Yeah. I was a distro hopper, and I was in a situation that I couldn't afford a new laptop. I had our own business as a interior designer, and I used Apple, and I was a big Apple fanboy. But in that time when my business failed, I discovered Linux to get it running on my machine, and I started with Ubuntu. Then I hopped. I think I had every distro out there. I've tried it.
Man after my own heart.
And I think that the longest I've been with a distro before Antergos, I think it had to be Tumbleweed. Yeah. And well, after that, I jumped. I read things about Antergos, and I installed it, and my distro hopping days were over. I was hooked on Arch. I loved the possibilities Arch gave me, and also that's actually where I learned learned to understand Linux when I used Antergos.
Excellent. And that came from John, by the way, in our chat.
Okay.
Any other questions we want to give to Brian?
Yeah. Can I give one?
Do it, Joshua.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to say real quickly that you have great motivation and inspiration, but is there any big goals or expectations you're trying to meet? Are you trying to match a certain distro in terms of what features they have?
No, because most, especially Arch-based distros, try to make it very easy for especially newbies, and that isn't our philosophy. In distro-wise, there are still some improvements to make, but distro-wise, how the distro is presented now is actually the road we're going to travel. So we're not going to try to be the new Manjaro or to be like Arco Linux and to give you the first step with a bunch of apps, and then later on you'll get to learn it. With us, it's easy install, and after that, it's Arch.
I have a lot of respect for that. I think there's been a lot of discussion around whether or not Arch is suitable for newer users. I think newer users who want to take the time to learn, it's a great system, but I think the claiming that it is a sort of seamless, simple, easy user experience is just slightly disingenuous. So I have a lot of respect for you being upfront and honest about, this is maybe, if your first foray into Linux, maybe not your best choice.
No, we're not aiming at complete noobs. I mean, if someone is coming from Windows or Apple, we're not the right distro to start with. I mean, I think you would be screaming if if they would try us. But it's for those distro hoppers like I was. And if you like distro hopping, it's okay. But I was really looking for the ultimate distro, and I found out that the ultimate distro it doesn't exist. I mean, everyone is looking for this holy grail, and it isn't there, because there's always something in the distro you don't like. Either it's the color, or it's the way the package manager works, or whatever. And that is what Antergos gave me. Antergos Arch actually gave me a lot of peace with Linux. I was very restless. I thought, okay, Deepin. Oh, I don't like Deepin. I like elementary. There's always something, and with Arch, I had something to grab on and to dig in, and I finally understood what Linux was all about.
I think Brian just basically equated distro hoppers to like crusaders looking for the Holy Grail.
Yes, that's what he did.
Very interesting.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Another question, Brian. You've admitted that the three of you are new to building a distribution and running with it. So how is your perceived timeline coming along? Is it going to plan? Is it going to the scale you wanted, or have you suddenly hit a couple of brick walls and it took you longer to work through them? How's it going for you guys at the moment?
It's going very well. I mean, we started this project, what was it, 23rd of May, something like that. And the last 2 weeks of May was only talking about a distro we didn't have. The 1st of May, we presented the final plan, and the whole month of June, we worked on building a website, building a forum, building an ISO, and that went quicker and much more smooth than we ever anticipated. And the online installer. Yesterday, I had a talk with the other devs, and one of them said, "Well, let's do a beta for the net installer." And I was at that moment thinking, okay, keep on, let's step on the brake, guys. We're going like thunder lightning fast. Let's bring out a decent online installer, because I have to admit the first stable release was with a lot of bugs, and I admit that I am the one who was pushing it, because I wanted the ISO I wanted Endeavour to launch as quickly as possible, because I wanted to reassure the Antergos community.
Anybody else have any questions they want to throw in? All right. It takes a tremendous amount of work to make a distro. You guys are 3 guys at the moment. And I know that I've asked you this question earlier, but I want to ask again. What is it that you guys need right at this moment that people could help out with?
To help us with especially the ISO, and especially to those in the community who knows Python, please help us. I mean, that's the thing we lack. And the community is asking about the donations. We're working on that one. But at this moment, financially, Endeavour OS is financially covered. So that isn't the first priority. The first priority is the ISOs itself.
Very nice. So if any of you want to try to help out on GitHub or anything like that, you can get a hold of. You guys have a discourse forum?
Yes.
that you can pitch in and help out, because this is a project that is not just like any other distro. This is a project of people that have passion for Linux, have passion for the community, and it's something that you want to get behind. It makes you want to get behind it because of that. So
I had a question about the wiki and your plans. Just because Nate's not here, I thought I would jump in, Mr. Wiki. So you've already got some great content on there, and if I have to use Manjaro as sort of an example, so they will direct you to the Arch Wiki, which is the right thing to do because that's sort of the source of truth. And then you've kind of got some, Endeavour specific things. Do you see sort of expanding out and providing, some user guides or like more information, or are you going to try to keep that sort of compact and very specific to just like the core system, or have you even?
No. No. We're going to expand it. Like I said before, I think it was 1.5 months to create the website and the ISO and the wiki. And the wiki is a work in progress, so it isn't done. Absolutely. And there are already community members who want to submit articles to the wiki. So
Great.
all right, I think that answers all the hot seat questions, Brian. Let's get into our experience with Endeavour OS so far. So Zeb, we will get back to you before, but we'll head on to some of these other guys. We're going to skip Chris till next week. Aris, did you go this week? Did you try Endeavour, or you want to be skipped?
I tried Endeavour. Everything pretty much worked. The installer was easy because it was Calamares. I didn't have any issues, except the one thing is that they customized the color for the taskbar, and sometimes that's an issue with the different themes. Sometimes it looks really wrong because the colors don't match enough, and there's not enough contrast for the fonts. Other than that, I think everything went pretty good.
Well, you're supposed to use the default theme, Aris. Just saying. All right. Kevin, you did not try it, correct?
That's correct.
All right, dig it. Chicken.
I will wait till next week. I'm still figuring things out.
That's all right. That's why we do a 2-week challenge. Tony, would you like to go again?
Yeah, why not? More or less going to say the same thing as I said on the European edition, if I can remember what I said. I tried installing it twice and failed, which is probably my fault as a newbie. It's successful on the third attempt. Love the theming, best XFCE I've ever seen. I spent 20 minutes trying to work out how to install software. Decided to go to the website and have a look, which is what I should have done in the first place, because I then found out it's command line only. Not good for a newbie, but this distro is obviously not aimed at a newbie. But I managed to install the Deepin desktop to have a look at that, and that worked fine. And I was quite surprised I was successful with that, because normally these things just don't work for me. And I also cheated, went online and copied and pasted into the terminal in order to install PAMAC so I could install software. And that worked, surprisingly, although if I remember correctly, there was a lot of red warnings as it was going in, and I was thinking, it's on a test laptop. If it blows up, it won't matter quite so much. But it did work. Whether I'm being spied on through that or not, because of that, I've no idea. But overall, I really liked it, and I'm seriously considering possibly trying to switch over to it as a permanent thing on my main machine. But I need to learn a bit more about Arch first, or I might wait for the other installer where I can install a choice of desktop. Maybe it'll be a bit easier. But overall, it's brilliant for a first release, and I wish you all the best carrying on with it.
Thank you.
All right, Eric, are you going to go this week or?
Not really, no. I mean, just basically that I've installed it. The installer works. I mean, all of the sort of first steps, that all seems normal. The desktop's great. The theme looks good. I'd rather give a more informed opinion next week.
Yeah, sure. No problems at all. Well, I guess, Brian, we know what you're running at the moment. So if it's okay, we'll skip over your good self and move on to the most intrepid of distro hoppers. And we can't stop her half the time. So, Barbara, did you try Endeavour?
No, I actually did download it, but I haven't tried it yet because I have one machine running OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. And I thought I was going to upgrade, get a bigger hard drive. And I thought, this is going to be really easy, whatever. Won't have to. I ended up having to nuke and pave, reinstall everything. So that's what I ended up doing for the last 2 days. For some reason, it was getting really cranky.
But are you scared of
No.
doing Arch?
Well, let's put it this way. The one time that I installed it.
Oh, here we go. You're going to love this, Brian.
Yeah. The one time I did try to install it back in, was it like December or something?
We did a distro challenge for Antergos, and
Yes.
Antergos always had those ups and downs as far as there were certain months that it would work great, and there were certain months that it would kind of be very bad.
Yes. And
Okay.
This was very bad. It ended up eating my... it ate the boot partition and it puked on grub. I mean, it was like I had boot barf basically, and nothing would start, even though it said, success, successful installation, and I rebooted it.
And everything was gone.
Everything was gone.
Barbara, are we talking about your computer or your cat?
Huh?
I said, are we talking about your computer or your cat? I'm confused.
No, my computer.
Barbara,
And I had boot barf, and it was ridiculous. And so I've just been leery of Arch because of that, because of Antergos. But as I said, I did download it, so that's a start. I'll see how it goes this week.
Wow, Barbara, way to go to give a new set of terms to be related to Linux.
Barbara,
Put it in the wiki.
I'm so proud of you.
Huh?
You made so much progress. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So what you're going to do is you're going to install it this week, and you're going to talk about it next week, right?
Yes.
Dig it. Adam, sir.
Hey.
Hold on, Adam. Let me take a drink of water.
Yeah. I had a wooder here earlier. He had to take care of a tree, so it's all good. So I tried Endeavour. I don't like XFCE. The distro was amazing once I installed like Plasma or something, like just not XFCE. A little bit of a design decision. Maybe have some kind of like super key and then type in things like a launcher or something, because I couldn't find any of that. And
You mean for XFCE?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I hit like the super key, nothing happened. Like super space, alt space, like any of the common things just didn't bring up anything. So
that's XFCE actually.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I don't like it. But I mean, otherwise it's Arch, right? Like it's just, I mean, it's a good start, I guess. You got work to do, but it's all right.
The main reason we chose XFCE is because it's it takes years before. We're going to get a new update this coming week or next month. When is it?
I think it's tomorrow, actually.
Oh, tomorrow.
I think it's
So
tomorrow.
basically next month.
Yeah.
Well, for us, it's very easy to maintain XFCE. That's the reason why we chose it.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair. Some people do. I don't. It's fine. It's all good.
Just a bit of context for you as well, Brian. Adam is a GNOME user, stock.
Yep.
Just uses GNOME, works with it brilliantly. Are you using any extensions, Adam, or?
No.
Zero
So,
extensions.
Out
Vanilla
of
GNOME.
curiosity, when it comes to the experience that Endeavour is supposed to deliver, it's all supposed to be fairly default, right? Which is why it's not been changed from Control Escape.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's Control Escape? What is
Yeah.
it? Windows?
I don't know. XFCE is quirky, but once you get
Wow.
your
All right.
Well, that Control Escape, that brings up a right-click menu, right? It
that
doesn't.
should be the whisker menu,
It brings up the.
unless you have another one on there.
It brings up the right-click menu on the desktop for me.
Oh, I threw the whisker menu on mine, so maybe it's.
Well,
So maybe do that. I don't know.
yeah. All right, let's moving on. Colin, sir.
Well, Control Escape does nothing for me, so I don't know what that's all about.
Maybe we should do Shift Control Escape, right, Dave?
Okay, well, I'll have just a quick say because I've installed it, but I haven't gone any further than that. What I did notice was it's got an update manager called Kalu, which I've never heard of. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. Kalu, is it?
Yes.
I haven't heard of that one before, and it sort of pulsates in the corner there, and when it's got an update and gives you the notifications when you click on it. So that I found that to be very handy. And there's also there was some things that came up that sort of tell you've got to make sure this and make sure that within the updates as well. I can't remember what that was now. It was a few commands or something. Is that right, Brian?
Yeah. What Kalu is doing is all the news that Arch Linux is pushing out, the necessary news, like and a lot of them are old commands, but it's presenting that to warn you. The most amazing thing about Kalu is you can simulate an update without installing it. So you can check if there's a problem, and if there isn't a problem, you can do the actual update.
Right. So the news will tell you, or not part of the news, but somewhere else within that Kalu, it'll tell you if there's an issue, or is that part of the news?
If you do the simulated update, then
I didn't see that one simulated.
Yeah, if you go into the settings, you can also disable the news and disable a lot of things, but you can actually do a test run before actually updating your system.
Cool. I'll have to check that out.
That's actually very nice.
Yeah.
And
all right. Well, sorry, Zed, go on.
I was just going to say, is that a feature that you deliberately built into that update manager, or is that something that Arch has been doing for a long time anyway?
No, it's what Jackie, the developer of Kalu, he made that.
Nice.
And it's very light. Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to have to work out how to do that. Is it right click or something? I can't see where the
just go into the settings and then you'll discover
the preferences. Is that the preferences?
Yeah.
Go down lower right corner, right click on the little arch symbol, and it'll bring up a menu. And one of the options in there is to simulate the update.
Okay, cool. No worries. Besides that, Rocco, everything, it's XFCE. We all know XFCE out of the box, I suppose, but not my favorite desktop environment. But I am looking forward to when the online installer is implemented, and I'll be looking forward to giving that a go. So besides the install, I did do I did use gparted prior to install. That all went flawlessly anyway, so there's no problem there. I'm used to doing that. And it all seems to be working well. I haven't done my updates yet. I've just had it sitting there until I get to that. So all's well so far. So positive reports.
Nice. So on to our resident Arch expert. Dave, how have you got on with Antergos Endeavour, if you tried it?
I thought you said the Arch expert.
I did.
Actually, since I started at the start of the show this evening, and so far on the laptop to my left, I have installed it. The only issue with the live environment that I had was that my wired network kept popping in and out, but the wireless was rock solid. Like Colin, I went to the little window up there and used Gparted. It worked flawlessly. Dropped down to installed below it. It installed like a dream. Fired right up. Went in. Was kind of freaked by all the messages that popped up because I wasn't used to that. Immediately dropped to a terminal. Pacman SYYU and everything updated, rebooted. It's running like a dream. I'm in the process of setting up the settings right now, but it looks really nice to me. The one thing that I haven't located yet that I'm looking for is Bluetooth manager, because I run Bluetooth mice on my laptops, and a lot of the other distros that I hop to will automatically put that in a live environment so I can hook into it, or have it as auto start for use. Other than that, though, it looks nice. XFCE isn't my favorite. Honestly, I would have had no problem if you dropped me straight to a terminal, because that's where I spend 90% of my time in Arch anyway. But
well, Dave, that specific network issue that you're talking about, I've received that many times, including on Salient. I was working with Silent Robot for a little bit, because
it happened on Salient for me too.
It just pops in and out, in and out, in and out. And I have no idea why. And I don't think me and Silent ever got it worked out, but I did not have it on this install of Endeavour. So I'm not sure what that is.
It might be the hardware in this particular laptop then. Because it's an old Toshiba satellite, or not that old, but so it could very well be the hardware. But like I said, the Wi-Fi was rock solid. Everything is booted right up. There has been no hesitation in everything. Everything has been fast, clear. When you started talking about that little update program, I went down and actually clicked on it. I was like, oh, this is cool. So I look forward to exploring that, and just want to give you mad props because it looks really good so far.
Thank you. I just want to say that most people think that Kalu is the same thing as Paymac. It isn't. Kalu is keep Arch Linux updated. That's why it's called Kalu. It does nothing else than that, and you can also update AUR packages, but it isn't like Paymac to search for packages in a convenient way.
See, and honestly, regular Arch installs, I never use Pamac. I always Pacman and Yay as an AUR helper. I do stuff straight off the terminal line. I don't use GUI updaters. I'm just weird that way. I'm from the age of DOS, so that's where I grew up. That's where I'm most comfortable.
Great.
Nice. Thanks very much, Dave. Dan, did you get a chance to try it?
I am using it right now.
Cool.
What do you think of it, Dan?
What do I think of it? It's not green. That's a joy. It seems like every distro I hop to's got a green theme right out of the box.
Green is popular nowadays.
Yeah. So the installer, I didn't really read much of the installer. I just hit go and let it go. And it came to a part where it wanted me to select a standard swap file or a hibernation type swap file. So I selected the hibernation one. Installed beautifully. It was done in like 5 minutes. I had a great time installing it. The Kalu thing, like Colin was talking about, that was quite baffling to me right off the bat, because I got all this news balloons popping up all over the screen telling me I need to do this and do that. And I actually did some of it and blew out my ring keys and access to GitHub.
Way to go, Dan.
See, and I treated it like the EULA and just ignored it till it went away.
Well, anyways, this is where I spent about an hour fishing around on the internet for the error messages I was getting anytime I tried to run Pamac or get something from GitHub. And I stopped after a while. I thought, let's see if these guys have a forum on their website where they deal with this stuff. And sure enough, they did. And somebody there had the exact same error message with instructions how to repair it all. So I copied and pasted stuff off that page in the terminal. And
You're not supposed to do that, Dan.
Wow.
Well, at this point, what they were complaining about exactly matched the problem I was having. So the remedy had to match too. That was my thinking.
I'm just giving you a hard time, man.
I know how you guys are. So I kind of got to the point where I did want a GUI software installer, so I installed the classic PAMAC. Too many people have told me the regular newer PAMAC has too many bugs in it, and they recommended that I go with the classic one. So I installed that, and the classic one actually found packages that the terminal wouldn't. And that kind of made me happy, and I'm pretty good with that. And when I need updates, when the Kalu thing's blinking, I get the red thing like you do in Manjaro pops up too. And you satisfy either one of those and fine, it's fixed. And it's updated. One thing I'm really happy that you guys put in the distro is you put the classic Pulse Audio Control Center in. Not just the volume control, but the whole suite. And usually with Debian-based stuff, I have to order that up for an additional, item, because it gives you the ability to select off for your camera microphone and off for your HDMI output audio, and get yourself down to a set of speakers, a headphone, and a microphone. And I'm really glad you guys put that in there. I did not have to go look for that. I, like everybody else, I had issues with the super key. It don't work. But however, the rest of my media controls on my keyboard do work. The audio up and down works. The fast forward, reverse, and all that for the media player works right out of the box. I had an issue. I need to copy my files, which I have on a backup drive, my computer, to copy them in to use this distro. Arch does not like to read filing systems that are created by Debian-based systems. It gives you the owner information as being 1000 rather than your name, and you're not allowed to do anything with them. So I actually had to go back and hook up a Debian drive, and that allowed me to copy all the junk I wanted to play with onto the drive that has the Arch on it in the Endeavour. So
I've noticed that before with Debian when I've tried to link to my Steam library, which is mounted on another drive, and it just if I'm in Debian, I have to chown zebedee it before it will allow me to get access to it. When I then get back to everything else, it all seems to work. So it just seems to be a Debian thing with how it...
I still haven't got my Steam to work either. I've copied everything over from my original setup, and it still, for some reason, is borked, and I even tried to reinstall it, and it won't take.
There's a particular file, steam.pipe, that will not copy.
Yes, I know about that one. Usually when you reinstall Steam right out of the box, just type install whatever in the terminal, Steam, and it'll repair it for you.
Right.
And you'll have all your games. You won't have to download them all over again and all that.
Hey, Dan, are you using the same username for your Arch and your Debian install that you created this on?
Everything's identical.
Okay, so after you create, I guess, a partition wherever it's mounted, do you chown it afterwards to that username, or do you just leave it as is? Because you might need.
Well, it's all my username because it's everything out of the home folder.
Right, but I mean the actual place where it's coming from. So all of the actual directory itself needs to be chown to that user, because it might just be a generic file system.
That's exactly what Zeb was saying. He does.
Okay.
In order for that to work, you're going to need to take ownership of those files.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to. I guess you have to use the -R after chown to do that to make it recursive throughout the whole directory, and sometimes it doesn't even take.
Weird.
But nonetheless, I'm using it. Most of the stuff works. It's not green. One thing I don't like XFCE that much, but one thing that I do like is that you've included OpenBox with it, which gives you the ability to just right click on your mouse and poof, you got a box with all your applications, you know, that you can click on to start something.
That's XFCE also. We didn't.
I thought that was OpenBox because if you
No.
put OpenBox into the search engine, it brings up that project.
No, we didn't.
Not all XFCEs have that. I don't think Peppermint has that either.
Okay.
It's optional. Now Manjaro does have it, and I'm going to tell you this has the feel much like Manjaro, but yeah, it's Arch.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. We got a few minutes left. Does anybody want to get in something specific this week that they might not be here next week for that we can go to out of the last few guys? All right, we will just continue on and then cut it off when we run out of time. Joshua, do you have anything to say about Endeavour OS?
Yeah, I thought it was Draugr for some reason, but I loved Endeavour. I don't even know how to say it. It has a nice theme. It has a nice look. As Dan mentioned, it's not green, and it's just a pleasure. You know, the community and the way how nice everybody is. I followed them on Twitter, and then like 1 minute later, they follow me back like, that's like a big thing. And let me tell you, everything is great, and it's still developing. So I think it's going to be a big thing. You know, Antergos was a big fall, and now we're slowly rising back up. So, yeah, keep going, and I'll help support the project. And, yeah, nice job.
Thank you.
All right, Bill, sir.
Hey, Rocco, just basically the same stuff I said on Europe Edition, just really, really good job, Ryan. And I presented a couple things to you, and you already said that they're fixed in the next release. So you guys are really on top of it. Really good job.
Yeah.
Excellent. Joe, welcome. Not in your usual place, my friend. Did you try Endeavour?
No, unfortunately, I probably won't be trying anything for a while. Rocco knows where I'm at. I'm actually down in Florida. I'm going to be here probably till the end of the month, and I may actually have to come back. My dad's not well, but I figured I'd grab a few minutes while he's resting and stuff. So, but I wanted to hang with my Linux friends. You know, it's been a while since I've seen you guys. So,
well, your dad is in our thoughts and prayers, and so are you, Joe. But we
you.
appreciate you being here.
Thank you. I missed you guys. I mean, and gals, of course. So, and for the record, I am going to say one thing. I did get a hold of my son's MacBook. I don't remember if I said it to anybody else, and it's running Linux Mint right now.
Nice.
On a MacBook. All right.
Yeah.
All right, then, Joe. Well, keep safe, my friend, and I hope everything works out for you.
Thank you.
Big Pod.
Yeah, I said a couple of things on the Europe edition, and I'm going to say again, I won't really give my final grade on it until I see the online installer, which is what I'm more interested in.
Mm-hmm.
But really, even the Sims probably won't replace Arch Linux D for me. Arch Linux D is completely empty. That's why I use it, and that's the main thing I do. Completely empty, so then I can install whatever I want. That is completely from start, since I have my own configs.
Big Pod, what is this down here? Growing the old beard out. Paul.
Well, not at school.
Nice. We're past time, but we're going to go anyway. Paul, you have anything to say about Endeavour OS, sir?
Yeah, I'll be quick. So far, so good. I mean, I never got to try the Antergos because I really didn't know Arch back when you guys did that challenge, you know. But now that I know Arch, yeah, Endeavour is great. I was able to. I don't like that Calu. That was confusing at first with all the pop-ups, so I just threw Octopi on there, and then I could search. And yeah, it's a great OS, great start.
Awesome. And we have the dashing Alan Pope with us tonight. How are you, sir?
Hello. I hope my audio works.
It is working, yes.
Sweet. I did not try Endeavour OS. I'm terribly sorry. I will find an opportunity to try it at some point soon.
Awesome. We have one question from chat that I want to get to, and they asked where. I mean, I guess you guys are not located together. They asked where you're located from. Like, where is Endeavour located from? Maybe you can answer where you guys are specifically from.
Well, we're not from one country. I'm from the Netherlands. Joe is from Germany. Manuel is from Finland, and Fernando is from Brazil.
Awesome.
And international.
Yes, I love it.
It's very international. The only thing that makes it more Dutch is that the Endeavour OS is registered in the Netherlands. So that's why in DistroWatch it's stated as a distro from the Netherlands.
Good luck with team meetings and those time zones.
Yeah.
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 Time zones are terrible. Just saying. We need to get rid of them.
Yeah.
All right. That is our take on Endeavour OS on week 1. We are going to continue trying it out this week, and we will be back next week to talk about it with the rest of everybody's opinions. But I just want to say thank you very much, Brian, for all of the hard work of you and your team that you put into it.
It's a pleasure to do. So thank you.
All right. So in Discourse, and if you haven't tried Discourse, you should. Eric did put a lot of hard work into Discourse, and it is absolutely fabulous. There was a question, a topic brought up, and I thought it would be an awesome topic to talk about on Biddle. So with that, Barbara, take it away.
Okay. About a week and a half ago, I posed a question. I was just kind of like musing about things in my brain. And I posed a question: what would you use as a distribution if your distro of choice suddenly just disappeared? Like there was no way to get it. And I mean, I just thought it was just one of those things. I mean, you've got all these people who distro hop a lot, and I'm not a big distro hopper, as everybody knows. But I just thought it was an interesting question. And there have been a lot of responses, and they've been rather interesting. I know myself, if Ubuntu Mate went away, and basically if Ubuntu went away, then I'd probably either go to OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, because it's green. But I change it to Joule, or Solus with a Mate desktop.
Barbara, you can't have two. You got to pick one.
I'd probably go with OpenSUSE first.
Okay.
Because there's more software out there that you don't have to ask to get put in the repository. So that would be why.
All right.
And it's green.
I think this is an awesome topic. So let's start with you, Zeb. Zeb, what is your distro of choice that we don't all know? And what would you switch to if Peppermint wasn't around?
It used to be a very easy answer, and the answer was MX Linux. It is near as damn it as good as Peppermint. But just lately, I've been discovering a lot of really good distributions, and there's probably, I would struggle, I guess, between a top 6, of which Ubuntu Budgie would be one of them, Tumbleweed would be another. I'm then torn between the 3 arches, and that being Endeavour, Arco, or Salient, because they just, all of these for me just work. But if I was put on the spot, I guess I'm going to go with MX, because it's got a great community as well.
Well, again, I have to say that we are in such a good time in Linux that we have so many good choices. It's not like we have a ton of just mediocre choices. We have such a good variety of great distros based on every architecture out there. Or not architecture, but based on every Ubuntu base, Arch base. I think it is just an exciting time to be around Linux. So yes, it does make that question very, very hard. Chris, what is your distro of choice, and what would you use if that went away?
Well, as I've stated previously, distro of choice is Fedora, and if that went away, I don't know. As I said last week, I'm starting to have a hard time deciding what would replace it. But I mean, as it stands, I don't know. I'm probably have to go with Zorin, even though they're not using the current kernel. That doesn't mean I can't compile the current kernel into there and stuff like that. So I don't have any worries about that. But Zorin just seemed to have everything fit in there, and I'm always looking at it from the perspective of my users, and Zorin seems to be something that they would be able to adapt to pretty quickly. So that's basically what I'm looking at.
All right, sounds good. Aris, can you let us know what it is that you currently use, and what would you choose if there was a earthquake and it was sucked up by a big hole in the ground?
I've been on Kitty Neon for like a year and a half, I think, and pretty much I'm about to move over actually to Debian. I could say easily I could just go to Kubuntu, but I'll say Debian. I'm not sure if I would run probably MX. I'll probably switch over if I had to, but I'm gonna try to run Debian vanilla for the next year until the next LTX comes out from Ubuntu.
I did that with Solus.
If you go to Debian
3.99999, right?
If you go to Debian 10, their repos are not really heavy in applications. You might have to supplement some of your work with deb packages. A third of my Debian install is deb packages.
I like pretty much Flatpak, snaps. I always do everything with them. So as long as that works, I could.
You'd have to install that system then.
Yeah.
Debian's kind of made, I got the feeling it's made like for server use or something like that, where it's got to be stable all the time, or something someone else can use to build a distro on top of.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a minimal install and then install a minimal Plasma on top of it.
All right.
Thanks very much indeed. Kevin, what are you using and what would you go to?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Seb. I am an avid Fedora user, typically, but in the past couple of weeks I've switched over to using Pop OS. Switching distros that I use on a daily basis is not really a routine thing for me, so I can see myself using this for the foreseeable future. So I guess if Pop OS just up and disappeared, I would probably just go back to using Fedora. I'm comfortable with that and really like a lot of things about it. Some things more so than I like what I've experienced with Pop OS. But the trade-off's just where it's at. So
That's a sneaky way of not saying your beloved Fedora has gone. So Fedora's gone. So are you going to stay on Pop?
Well, I mean, if it wasn't so, in the forum thread, I put a few different things. Those were the kind of the top two. But I think if I was gonna go any further down the list, and I had Fedora Silverblue on that list, but I'm not gonna pretend to that's completely different, even though it is radically different.
Plus, it's gone because Fedora's gone.
Well,
you can't pin them down, Seb. You can't pin them down.
But yeah, if those were gone, well, I'd probably have to go I don't know. Hang out with Nate on that goofy chameleon distro.
Yeah. All right, Chicken. So, why are you an Elementary OS fanboy? I love the cup. Gotta have the cup there. So, if Elementary disappeared tomorrow, what would you use?
Debian.
Wow.
Straight to Debian.
Well, I have to say that you have been talking a lot about Debian lately.
It's really, really good. I don't know why I didn't get along with 9 so much, but honestly, my experience with Debian 10 has been amazing. My servers are still running it, so I've got like 3 backup servers still running Debian right now.
Very nice. Tony, what is your current distro?
Linux Mint Cinnamon.
And if Linux Mint Cinnamon disappeared tomorrow, what would you run?
It wouldn't really matter because I distro hop so often. I've never been on a distro longer than 6 days. So one could go, half a dozen could go. I probably wouldn't notice, to be honest. I'd just go to something else for a few days and then I'd be moving on again. So at the moment, it's not a relevant question for me, to be honest.
Well, if Tony's favorite distro went away, they'd all be gone, I guess.
Yeah, exactly, because they would all be gone.
Okay, Eric, what are you currently using? And if it disappeared overnight, where would you find yourself?
So I tend to use Ubuntu-based distributions. Now, that's the fair way of saying that I generally will switch every few weeks just because. And honestly, the distro choice to me is coming down to, and I know I keep beating this drum over and over, but it's really a choice of what runs best on my hardware. And with this particular laptop, Ubuntu-based distros, particularly 1810 and beyond, although I will say I'm running Mint 19.2 right now, which has an LTS base, and it is running really well. So there you go. So anything Ubuntu-based just seems to work really well for me. I appreciate that it's used by the majority of software packagers. There's going to be a deb package. There's a lot of advantages, in my opinion, to using it. If that went away, the other base distribution that works for me is Arch-based. So I would have to switch to something Arch-based, which, Endeavour, Arco, you name it. And again, comes down to what's running well on my hardware.
Cool. Nice. Well, I've got a little lemon twist for your one, Brian, because you've already been in this situation. Your Antergos went away and you created your own.
That's not fair. That's totally not fair.
Yeah. So you cannot do it this time. You've lost all ability. You've had a brainwash and you don't know how to make an ISO. So if Endeavour went away tomorrow, what would you jump to?
Well, if Endeavour was going away, let's say Arch is going away.
Yeah, Arch is going away, yeah.
Then I would definitely use Solus because I admire that project started from scratch and it's looking good. It's rock solid. I love it. I love the project. The reason that I didn't hang on with it because at that time when I tried it, the app selection was very small because they were very selective, still are. But what I see how it's matured, Solus all the way.
Nice.
Yep. Barbara.
Yes.
If Ubuntu Mate went away, what would you use? Again? Say it again for Nate.
OpenSUSE, Tumbleweed, because it's green.
I just figured you get that in.
You should know, though, that I changed the color, except for my background. That's
wow.
a giant gecko, not gecko, chameleon.
Barbara, we got to work on that theme, all right?
Oh, I love that theme. I love the chameleon.
Yep.
But Ubuntu Mate, my color scheme is jewel tones. Seriously. So, and I did the same thing except for the background on the other one. So it can be done. You don't have to stay with green if you don't like it. Green looks good on plants.
Right.
And it should.
Yes, but I don't hold that against Ubuntu Mate nor against OpenSUSE. I just changed.
If they're brown, there's something wrong.
Exactly. Then they're dead. Like most of my plants end up like that. No, I would just, you can change colors. You know, that's the nice thing. You don't have to be stuck with green.
Right. Adam.
But Rocco, what would you use?
Wow. Hey, we're going to move on now. Adam.
Come on, Rocco.
That is.
What are you running?
I am running Pop OS as the best distribution ever. If Pop OS was to go away, I am going to have to say I would have to run Elementary. I just...
You can jump in.
I mean, I love what they're doing. I love the idea of making a distribution cohesive and beautiful all across the board. I just love everything about what they're doing. So that would be my choice.
Okay.
Nice.
Adam, sir, what is your distro of choice?
That'd be Pop OS.
Nice.
If it disappeared, I'd run Windows.
No, you wouldn't, would you?
Whoa.
Yeah. There's nothing else that's good enough. Nothing else is good. No, I'm just kidding. Probably...
Send your hate mail to adam.grubbs.
Right. AdamGrubbs.io, thank you.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Spam it up, guys. Spam it up. No, I'd probably either use Manjaro or Elementary. Yeah. One of those.
Excellent. So, Colin, I guess you're a bit like Tony. Which distro are you on this hour, and which one would you move to?
Well, you know, I'm a bit confused about this topic, to be honest, because I don't know what this distro of choice is that you speak of. I must have missed, because I haven't been in discourse for a few days. I've been a bit busy the last couple of days, so I missed that one. But if I was to be honest, the distro I've used most is Linux Mint Cinnamon. So that's probably the one that I've used most. So if that was to go away, I don't know. I would probably be like Tony, just forever hop and just, you know, enjoy the fruits of Linux. Although I am keen on trying Debian, so I want to see how that goes. So
You're
maybe
only allowed one. You can't hop from distro to distro to distro. If
Debian.
your favorite distro.
It's from watching all them kangaroos.
Yeah.
So if okay, so if I was to have
down there.
If I was to have a what can you say, a safe place, then it would have to be. It would probably. I would say at this point Debian, although I haven't run it long enough to know because I want to install it on my main, which I haven't done yet. But I'll say Debian at this point.
Nice. Okay, Mr. Terminal. So the terminal goes away tomorrow. What would you run?
Let's get more specific here. If Arch went away.
Okay.
Actually, what I've been on the last 6 months has been Tumbleweed. Cubicle Nate got me back on that because I ran it 20 years ago.
That guy.
And I went to try it again. And I've enjoyed, well, half of my systems are Tumbleweed, the other half are Arch. If they went away, honestly, just because I prefer rolling and the ability to grab any software I want from anywhere, I would fall back on Gentoo, especially now that machines are fast enough to compile things in a reasonable amount of time, and compiling a web browser doesn't take 3 days anymore. So I would go back to Gentoo and build from scratch, basically.
I don't know. It took Zeb a long time. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I've watched more Gentoo compiles this summer than I bear to stand.
Well, considering the last time I did a stage 1 install was late 90s, early 2000s, I'm pretty sure it's not going to take as long as it did then.
All right, Dan Kelly, what are you running?
Well, for the last few months, Debian's been my fallback. I'd have to say whatever works best with my hardware. Now, I have serious audio issues with most Debian-based distros, including Ubuntu. And we talked about this a bit last week, and you said, oh, Discord does it with everything. Guess what? Endeavour OS does not. I put the fix in, which the fix is the TSCHED-0 at the end of the module line in the default PA folder. And that's supposed to fix the one issue with the audio, but with the Debian-based ones, I get a lot of stuttering every 20 minutes. With Endeavour OS, I put the workaround in, it works fine. The only other distro that I have that works really good is good old Zorin. I don't have that issue with Zorin either. Matter of fact, I don't even have to put the patch in for Zorin, or the workaround. So I probably would go to Zorin. I do have Ubuntu Mate on another drive if I want to go there. I mean, I'm ready to, if something blew up today, I got backups of distros everywhere. So
for somebody who doesn't like green,
Zorin. Well, that's why the Ubuntu's in the drawer over there, the Mate one, because it's green.
But you can change that.
Yeah, I changed it to orange. That's worse.
You don't have to change it to orange. You can download a theme that has the colors you like.
I'll tell you one thing. It's not the color. I got past the green because you can install GNOME colors and you can have a rainbow.
Exactly.
All right.
So
Derek Graham in chat said if Manjaro would go away, he'd use Arch, and if Arch went away, he would try Linux Mint. There's that.
And I found it quite amusing when you asked Mark Greaves what he would use if Peppermint went away. And he said, well, if Peppermint went away, I'd be dead.
See, that's not that's not a valid answer. And then he tries to use like the truth type, comeback to make it sound good, like Joshua, what do you use right now, sir?
I'm using Le Ubuntu. I have this Fedora mug, this water bottle. It's actually pretty damaged. The stickers are coming off on the other side. But Fedora would be my next move if it was gone. And if not, then I would pick Zorin actually first. But then, no Ubuntu, no Zorin. So yeah, it would be Fedora. And if that for some reason went away, I actually don't know, probably Debian. I don't know, whatever appears to be in the world that is crazy enough to be existing.
Cool. Thanks very much indeed. Frank, I think we might know what you're on, but if you can let us know, and what would you jump to?
So, yeah, today it's obviously, and for a while, it's been Ubuntu Mate. If that went away, I'm assuming that the entire canonical infrastructure would go away. So it would probably wind up being on Big Deb. And if Big Deb wasn't around, I'd probably go to Manjaro or Solus.
That's not valid, Bill. You got to pick one. Pick one.
I would go with something with Big Deb then.
All right. I'm just teasing you, man.
It's all right.
Okay. I lost myself there for the minute. Big Pod. What are you using? And you can't say Windows because that's already been done. And where would you jump to?
I use Arch, and truth be told, if Arch went away today, I would either go to Ubuntu and basically make my own ISO, or go to Fedora and make my own ISO, or go to Gentoo?
So
Choose
which one of
one.
those three? You got to pick one. Yeah.
Pressure's on.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it?
Probably.
Do you
at
want
the
to
end,
drum?
We'll go to Ubuntu.
Do you
and
want to
make
ask a
my own
friend?
ISO.
Phone a friend.
So you said Gentoo, right?
Gentoo is one option, yeah.
All right.
Lots of videos out there on Gentoo.
Yeah, lots of long streams.
Not gonna be a video for me this summer, believe me.
The final one's going to be Friday, by the way. Hint, hint.
my.
Can't wait.
What do you have left to do in it, Zev?
Just install all those other applications that aren't there at the moment. I've done all the simple ones where you can just emerge them, but it's where you've got to add stuff to the package use, or add stuff to the licenses, or unmask stuff, and I can't even remember the terminology, but you can bring in other bits and pieces that are a bit iffy on Gentoo, and that's what they're going to show. So,
all right, let's continue. Paul, sir, what are you running right now?
Well, I run mainline Arch.
And what would you do if Arch went away?
Well, then I would have to go with English Bob's favorite, which is.
I love it.
I thought we were still waiting for Michael to update.
Somebody had to do that, right? Somebody had
had
to do that.
No, I would go back to the Ubuntu, not Ubuntu, the other one, Plasma.
Kubuntu.
Kubuntu, yeah.
All right, Michael in chat says he's running straight Arch at the moment, and he would go to Ubuntu if Arch went away.
Good choice.
Alan, what do you say, sir? What are you running right now?
Right now, I'm running 1904, Ubuntu 1904 GNOME. And if that went away, I'd be out of a job.
But you would still need a Linux computer, even if you were jobless.
Well, would I really? I mean, I don't know. I think I would probably, I'd probably go for Debian, because I don't like RPM. I don't like Yast. I don't like the lack of packages in some of the niche distros. So I think Debian is probably the way to go. I'm too set in my ways with apt that I really like Debian, and I think that's probably where I'd go. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much. Jonathan, welcome to the
Also,
stream.
Thanks, man.
I would have to find somewhere. Sorry, I would have to find some way of making money out of Debian, because I would, of course, have lost my job, and so I need to figure out what I do in order to pay the bills. So it's entirely possible I would sell all of my computers in order to have enough money to pay the bills. In which case, it wouldn't matter. There would be no OS because I would have no computers.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Jonathan.
Yeah.
It's
So, Jonathan, over to you.
A good thing Linux is free, right?
Last time I heard.
Yes, but the electric bill is not. So go ahead.
So I'm currently on Pop OS right now, and yeah, it's running really well. If that went away, it's a toss up between Fedora and Ubuntu, but I kind of have a soft spot for Ubuntu, so I'd probably try to make Ubuntu work. Yeah.
So there's a really interesting question, because isn't Pop OS based upon Ubuntu? Or
Yeah.
does that not really matter? Because then, yeah, well, it's the same for me. Peppermint went away. That's Ubuntu. Yeah. So we'll let you off for that one.
I mean, I had some slight weird things, like if it messes with my hardware clock, I like to make Linux do local time, so because Windows normally does that, and I don't really feel like playing around with the registry settings in Windows. So like there are little nitpicks with Ubuntu, but I could make it work. Like it could be a very, very good home for myself. I've always been very fond of Ubuntu. It's a really good distro.
All right. I forget what you're on, Matt, but Matt says he would probably try to do Solus if Pop OS went away. Oh, that's right. You are on Pop OS. See, Pop OS is the way to go. You people got to go with the program.
Are you turning into the new Michael with KDE?
No, I'm turning into the new Chicken with Elementary.
I like it because you're secretly recruiting more GNOME users.
Yep. All right. So this is actually going to be we're going to try to make this a regular thing where we take a part of the show and pick up a topic from the discourse, maybe a hot topic of what people are talking about, and we'll bring it to the Biddle show to kind of like get it all out there. But Zeb, you saw another topic in there you wanted to talk about?
I did, but it might be something that we've talked about before, so I'll leave it for you guys. But it's the old conundrum of which video editor do you go with? And we talked a bit on the European edition, or it might have been earlier on before we got live, that Das Geek just did a video on how to use Blender to edit a video. And I'm just wondering what makes it so difficult to create a good piece of software to edit videos. Is it because it is so complicated? Is it because stuff like Kdenlive has given you the ability to make so many flashy, clever transitions that you're not just happy with putting a video out there, cut and pasting a few bits and pieces, and up it goes? Do you need all this clever trickery? So you used to do an awful lot of video editing before, Rocco, so let's start with you. What video editor is your video editor of choice, and what would you like to change about it, maybe?
My video editor of choice, as I talked about last week, is Kdenlive. And what would I like to change about it? Everything. No. I would like to change the fact that it crashes consistently still for me, regardless of whether I use the Snap app, the app image, or the repository. It just has a habit of crashing. Colin had mentioned that the sound is off, and it is just... I've been looking for a better editor. And the problem with the editors is you have to subscribe to that workflow of that editor, which means there are certain differences between them, and some are really small differences, and some are really huge. Like I believe Blender is pretty much completely different than something like Kdenlive, and you have to subscribe to that workflow and find out which keys work which shortcuts you need, which transitions can you do. The closest I've come so far is, I believe, Shotcut, which worked really well for me, with the exception of it hesitating. And I would do something, and it would hesitate for like 10 seconds, and then it would come back, and that was a constant thing. But I guess the reason that it is so detailed is, I mean, you're working with video files, you're doing crazy transitions sometimes. This is a complicated piece of software, so it's not like anybody's going to build this editor and it's going to be perfect. So go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I've spent some time in the past week or two just looking at what is really happening with video editors in the Linux space, and something that I didn't really quite understand before I did this research was that many of them are using the MLT framework. And so apparently a lot of the limitations and the performance issues, the hardware rendering, like a lot of the modern things that other commercial products have are a limitation of the MLT framework. And I may be misquoting this a little bit. I apologize if I am. But so to some degree, Kdenlive, Shotcut, and I'm sorry, several others are also using that same framework, and that really, they're building sort of modern UI and modern tools on top of it, but at its heart, I think that's maybe something that's aging, or there's some technical debt there that's holding back some of those more modern features. Maybe that's where some of this crashing is coming from. So I've started to then say, okay, what editors are out there that either have a custom or a different backend? And so Ryan, is looking at Blender. I looked at it and I really gave it a shot for about 4 hours one day, and I was having a lot of technical issues where the timeline, making edits, the waveforms wouldn't refresh, and so the audio was out of sync, and there was nothing I could do to fix it other than to completely close out, come back in, reload the project, move tracks around. I don't know if it was just something on my system, but I was having a lot of problems. So it was kind of disappointing.
Well, editing is such a big deal. Like, it's such a time-consuming process already that in order for you to go through that kind of a headache, it makes it ridiculous.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. If you're going to invest the time, so like a lot of people say, well, Lightworks is an option, right? Because it's a proprietary, but it's a different system. But Lightworks has a very interesting and different workflow. And if you take the time to learn it, then maybe that's something that works for you. But something that Adam pointed out to me is that some of their tools don't work on Linux. So you can get their paid version so that you can export 1080p and 4K, but the extras they offer you only work on Mac and Windows. So I think that's a little unfortunate. And so what I've sort of come back to is, I know it's an alpha and I know it's immature, but Olive is so stable. It has 95% of the things that I would ever use in an editor. Rocco, I think you did a nice job sort of summarizing the options available, and your take on it was Olive is stable and a good system, but is lacking some of the more advanced transitions and things like that. And I agree with that, but it's almost like the difference between Photoshop and GIMP, where there's a lot of things that GIMP doesn't have that Photoshop does, but there are ways to do those things. It's just a little more involved. So what I'm trying to do now is in Olive, like, look at transitions that I'm seeing elsewhere in other videos, and can I recreate that using different filters, different, are there ways to do that? And I'm finding that there isn't a packaged filter that says this kind of transition, but there are ways to sort of create them. So they're early on, and I really have a lot of hope. I actually even became a patron for them, just because I'd love to see them continue and move forward, because there's a couple of videos that show the difference in performance. Like, so you've got a video in Kdenlive with all the effects on it, and you're trying to scrub the timeline and see the real-time render, and the frame rate is just abysmal. It just can't show you what it actually would look like when it's rendered, even with proxy clips and things like that. And Olive, because it's not using MLT, it's so smooth. It's amazing. You can stack, titles and transitions and all the different stuff, and it really can handle that. So the base of what they've got is really impressive, and if they can just add some additional features, I think it's going to be the preeminent or very close to being the top choice.
Alan, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, you mentioned you had a lot of crashes with Kdenlive, Rocco, and I wondered how many of them you reported to the Kdenlive developers.
0.
Right. So you've now opted yourself out of complaining about any video editor. If all you're going to do is talk about on a video, with all due respect, on a YouTube video, if all you're going to do is complain about it here, it does nothing for the developers. It does nothing for future users who might want to use Kdenlive. It's akin to standing on a cliff top and shouting into the ocean that Kdenlive crashes. It helps nobody, right? The only way you can fix Kdenlive crashing is either magically become a developer and fix it, or tell the developers that it's crashing and how they can reproduce that issue. I realize that's a time-consuming, difficult task, but I have faith in you, Rocco. I think you can do it.
Well, you are absolutely correct, Alan, when you say that. I should be reporting bugs when I find them. To be honest with you, I have reported bugs in the past, and there are... Okay, so I don't report a million bugs, but the bugs that I have reported have gotten 0 to probably 20% response out of wherever issue that I posted at GitHub and whatnot. So it's not that I'm against reporting bugs, because actually I'm the one who always says, if you can, if you got the time, report the bugs so that developers can do it. But in my situation where I do have limited time, and then I do go out of my way to report bugs, and then I don't see any response to that, like I said, at times I do have to move on. So maybe it's a bad situation and I should do better, but that's been my experience.
I hear you, and I understand the position of finding, like, if you were a Linux user and you filed one bug, and that one bug that you filed nobody answered, you have 100% failure rate in the bugs that you filed. If you filed 2 bugs and both of them have not been addressed, you still have 100% failure rate. Once you start getting to the point where you're filing enough bugs, and to be honest, you have to poke a developer now and then, jump on their IRC channel, like post in their forum, hey, I found this bug, can I point you at it? You start getting more success. Just filing the bug is not enough. You kind of have to want it to be fixed. You've really got to have a passion that this thing is going to get better. And if you file a bug, it's one step beyond shouting into the wind, but it's so much better if you can follow it through and chase up with the developer and say, engage with the developer and say, hey, this thing failed. I'd love to help you get it fixed. Here are the circumstances. And I realize that's a time-consuming task, but this is open source software. None of us paid for this stuff. None of us went out of our way to stuff money into a developer's pocket in order to make this software happen. And sometimes we've got to go out of our way to help fix it.
I would agree with that. Chris?
I was just curious what facility there was to report bugs like this. I know with Fedora, I use Bugzilla all the time, and I've gotten a lot of responses. Sometimes responses saying, well, we're not going to fix that in this version anyway. Other times it's been, hey, yeah, we've been able to repeat it under your the circumstances that you reported, and it's been we're working on a fix. One of them was the calculator. The calculator kept crashing whenever I was trying to do the divide, and wasn't even going to divide by 0. But it was they said yes, we were able to reproduce it, and within the next update, that was like, I think probably about 2 weeks after they said yes, we'll fix it. There was a fix. It fixed it. So I mean, having a facility like Bugzilla really, really helps, because you can see what's going on with your reports and everything else. I don't know if there's anything like that for Kdenlive, or if that's strictly for Fedora or what, because I've only reported the Fedora problems with it. I haven't really...
KDE does have a bug tracking system, and there is a subtopic for Kdenlive, which I've posted in the chat for you.
So
I don't know. I mean, I'm more than capable of filing bug reports and finding issues and things like that. But I didn't sign a EULA or some kind of contract saying that I have to file bugs, and that doesn't negate my experiences with.
Looks like he froze.
That's a shame. Adam was making a very good point there, that you didn't opt in.
Kind of silly to me. I mean, I also have the choice of.
Right.
Sorry, Adam, you had froze there.
Yeah, my storms and stuff.
I often come across bugs, but I have no idea where to actually complain about them.
I've got the best way that I found, anytime I have an issue with any software and I want to find the bug tracker, usually Google, if you just look up whatever it is and then bug tracker, you'll get right to it.
Yeah, thanks for the link.
One of the problems we had is for like usability bugs where something doesn't work the way you expect. It's easy to articulate that and take a screenshot and say, well, this button's in the wrong place, or but for crashes, that was harder. And so years ago in Ubuntu, we implemented a thing that would detect when a program crashes, and it would send that crash report to us, but it will pop up a dialog and say, hey, this thing has crashed. Could you send this to us? And the idea behind that is to take the load off the user and say, just send it to us. Just hit send, and it will send it to us. We'll look at it. And if lots of people are affected by this, we'll figure it out. We'll fix it, and you'll get an update at some point in the future. You don't have to file a bug. You don't have to log into anything. You don't have to do anything. But the fact that it punched you in the face with a dialog box that said, please, like, press send, and all you had to do was press send, like nothing else. You just press send. That was enough for people to say, I need to disable this, or Ubuntu is the most crashy thing in the world. And it's not. It crashes exactly the same amount as every other distro, but we were capturing those crashes and trying to do something about it. And the problem is everyone pushed back. And when everyone pushes back and says, no, I don't want to send a bug report, and no, I don't want to be told when this thing has crashed, what are we supposed to do? Like, how are we supposed to fix this stuff if people are saying, no, I don't want to file a bug, and no, I don't want something to pop up and tell me when it's crashed, and I don't want to tell the developer anything, but equally, I want to be able to rant on the internet to everyone and tell them all that this piece of software is a buggy piece of rubbish. What are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to resolve that? I honestly don't know.
It's a fair point. No, I mean, good, sure.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna try and get into like the technicalities of like why video editors are so hard to make and like exactly what they try and do during their operation.
Go ahead.
Go for it.
So one of the difficult things is that with typical image manipulation, it's not so difficult. There's still a lot of things that have to be involved because you've got different algorithms that sort of detect changes in color variation across a certain region of an image. You've got compression operations that are running constantly. So that way it displays on your screen in a decent amount of time, and then it finishes doing all that. When you're working with a timeline of imagery, which is essentially what a video is, and you're thinking of typically 1080p, it could go up to 1440, you could go up to 12K if you wanted. You're now looking at within every single second, you have 30 to 60 to 120 images all being manipulated at once. And in this period of time, between these 60 frames that are happening, there are compression algorithms that are running that compare each frame to the one before it, even in a timeline. Before you've even rendered anything. And it does this to make sure that it's faster for you, but it's really, really, really hard to do. And when you're going through this timeline and things are being cut and split, it's got to add markers. It's got to essentially tell the end of the line what's going to happen when it gets there. It gets really, really, really messy, which is why they all use, as Eric said, the MLT framework, because it was kind of designed to help aid in this. But it also means that anytime you've built something around it, it's going to run into the same kind of problems that the one next to it is. And you're looking at not only a very finicky way of editing the images in this process themselves, because it's also got to line up with audio as well. You're also having to finesse the framework that you're using to handle it. So it's multiple points of failure just all bunched in together because there's this massive stream of data pouring in.
So
it's all compressed too. In the olden days, we dealt with video and we edited it in raw form and then compressed it after the editing was complete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I mean, if you want to talk the old days, we had AB roll and then lost generations, and then if we wanted to digitize it, you had to have a video capture card, and that was all another problem. But the what I wanted to ask Chicken was, is the is the most problem that we're running into is the lack of RAM space, not necessarily the lack of RAM, but the lack of RAM space to process this, or is it more of a video, a GPU problem?
Typically, the GPU does very little on Linux, unfortunately, because it's just I guess there's not frameworks in place that can easily take advantage of it. I'm not entirely sure why we're very CPU focused on it, but a lot of it is just being done straight through the CPU. And I know in Kdenlive, by default, it's like one thread for the timeline. You can up it if you want, but RAM space isn't typically a huge issue, but you can design a video editor that tries to dump all of that stuff into RAM to make it easier, reduces slowdowns with disk, having to, jump back in and check it every now and then. But I think for the most part, a lot of the issue is just that we're all kind of shoving it down one pipe, and it's just a lot to handle.
Well, I'd like to go back to something that Alan said and answer your question. What are you as a company to do in a situation like that? And there really is no perfect answer. You can't force people to contribute bug reports, but you need the bug reports in order to fix the software that they're complaining about. So it's a very bad situation. I don't think there would, regardless of which road you chose to go, it's going to be met with opposition. Just like you met with the pop-up box that said send the... that to me would be a simple thing. But you're still going to be met with opposition because there are so many different opinions. Some people are okay with that, and some people are not okay with that. But I think that the idea is we need to, as a community and Canonical as a company, need to work together to come to some kind of compromise, whether that be when you install it to make it more obvious, more community friendly, that what these reports send, what they don't send, the option to send them at all, to not be bothered by that. I think it just needs to be more present and open in the front of it when that happens.
It's a tricky balance. So when it first was introduced, we and I realize I'm talking specifically about Ubuntu, but there are millions of people who use Ubuntu, so lots of people see this, and so it's prominent. When we first introduced it, we thought it was a great way for people to be able to contribute without contributing. All they have to do is press a button, right? I personally lobbied hard for this to be automatic, for a user to just say, just send them and never bother me again with this. But we had lengthy discussions about the potential privacy invasion of this, because what that sends is a core dump, and that core dump could contain anything, and it could be any application crashing, and that could contain it. It could be an LibreOffice that contains a document in memory, right? And so not everyone has access to those crash dumps, and so we have to be very careful about enabling that stuff by default. And I really wanted us to enable it by default, but there was pushback because there's the possibility that a user's system would reveal information about themselves. And I know people think Canonical spy on everyone and then we're awful people, but we're very careful about gathering data from people. We don't want your data. We don't want to know what your documents are. We don't care what videos you're viewing in Totem or VLC. When it crashes, we want to know so we can fix it. It doesn't matter what video you were watching at the time, whether it was Disney or something adult-oriented. We just want to know whether it crashed or not. And some people didn't like the idea that we were gathering this information. And so I agree with you, Rocco. It should be a thing that you just press a button when you log in, when you log in or when you first install, that says, just send these crash reports somewhere. And you will have seen this on other platforms. Like every other platform has a tick box that says, just send stuff somewhere, make it all work, right? Make all this pop-ups go away and make it all work. But that's not the world we're in. We're in the Linux world where people are massively butthurt when we pop a dialog box up that says we're going to send a bit of information to Canonical, because Canonical are these massively evil people and all they want to do is spy on you. Like, we actually want to make it better. And it's really hard when you're met with that resistance, that that antagonism, that you're trying to do something evil when all we're doing is trying to make software better. It's really hard, and we've been trying for years to make this better, and all we get is flack.
What exacerbates that really is the stuff that Google and Microsoft have been doing, because they're doing that under the same auspices as we're trying to maintain the quality of the programs, and yet there's stories coming out about breaches and stuff like that. Now, I never heard anything about Canonical actually having a breach of contract or information, but it's along that same line of thought, and because people don't separate, oh, you're taking something away from my computer that I don't have control over what it is or not, I'm not going to give it to you.
Right.
Well, I definitely think it should be an option that is presented to the user, and they can decide whether or not they want to do it or not.
I don't use Ubuntu that often, but my question would be, in the first time the pop-up comes up saying, send the information, is there a tick box in it to say, don't pester me with these anymore?
So that wasn't the case, and I lobbied hard for that to be the case, and it now is. So there is now a tick box that says, send this and make this go away. I
think a lot of people would complain less if they had a way to turn it off.
Yeah,
or in your case, the other option as well, maybe have another tick box that say, just send it and don't pester me anymore.
Right.
Give them both options.
There was a tick box, I believe, in the installer too. You could choose to send stuff back to Canonical or not. I think the last time I installed Ubuntu Mate, I experienced that, and I allowed it to pop up the box so I could send the bug reports.
Right. That was slightly different, but similar. But yes, I would love for us to make it easier for people to send this. I mean, you can see the data for yourself. If you go to errors.ubuntu.com, just go to errors.ubuntu.com. The page takes a long time to load because there's a lot of data there. But if you scroll down, you'll see in the last day, there have been 240 crashes of the Nautilus file manager, and it tells you what releases that affects. And there's a bug report linked to that. And no normal human had to deal with that. No end user had to create that bug report. We create the bug report typically. And if you scroll down, you'll see there's lots of applications that crash because it's open source software and it's got bugs in it and it crashes. And you'll see how many times per day that crashes. And if you widen the window and widen the number of releases, you'll see that this stuff is very crashy. And we're the only ones who gather that data. And we try and fix it, but it's really hard. I don't know what we do. I don't know what, we try and make it easier, but it's very difficult.
You complain that it's hard, but you guys do a great job making it just work. You really do.
And the reality is that a lot of those bugs are probably upstream bugs that,
they
actually,
yeah.
So what about distros outside of Ubuntu? I mean, I know you don't have control over that, but other distros may not have a nice click like send this, and you're at the mercy of figuring out everything, going to their forums, going on their bug tracker, filling everything out. Like, some people just either don't know how or they don't have the time to do that. I know you guys make it easy, but I know you can't speak for them, of course, but I think people who use other distros, it can be a real pain.
From my perspective as an end user, I think that, and having been a product manager, having to gather bugs and things like that, I think saying go to a bug tracker, create an account, log in, log a bug, know which module to pick, and like all of the things you have to do.
Yeah.
It is a royal pain, even for someone who understands what they're doing. So what I would love to see is like some sort of liaison where you say, okay, come to the forum, post something, make it as easy as possible, and then maybe have someone who's volunteering to look at that sort of stuff, and then maybe they can triage and track the bugs. And that's outside of having an automated way to do it, because I guarantee you that is, in most cases, even if someone gets to where they're supposed to log a bug, once they figure out all they have to do to log that bug, they just go, yeah, forget that. Just saying. I mean,
yeah, logging a bug is hard. I grant you. I push people, and I was hard on Rocco earlier, but he's a nerd, right? You imagine what my mum would be like if Caden Live crashed. She can't file a bug. She doesn't know what to put in a bug
It's
report.
not as easy as picking up the phone. Hey, man, I got a bug. You want to help me with it?
Oh, we get those as well. We have customers. We have customers who phone us up and are like, this thing doesn't work. Can you help me? And
and that'll be another username and password you got to remember as well when you log into a bug report. And that becomes overwhelming as well, having all of those.
You know what there should be? A single sign-on.
Absolutely.
I still need mine when I get asked for it.
I have my SSO.
All right. We could continue this conversation on for hours, and it would still be awesome, but we are running out of time because we're going to be over time. So appreciate everybody being here, but last word for Zeb.
Just a reminder all to not forget Destination Linux. Although I haven't been on it for a couple of weeks, and I'm still not going to be on it for a couple of weeks, it is still a good production, and Michael and Ryan and Noah have been doing a fantastic job. They've had a really good guest presenter. They've got another one that's going to be making an appearance tomorrow. So give them some love and go and watch the videos. And thank you, Rocco, for letting us come here every week and having our virtual lug. No, our virtual community meeting.
There you go. Chris, last word.
Not a whole lot other than what we've been saying tonight. Please do follow Alan's advice, and it's like going to a doctor and saying, well, geez, my elbow hurts, and doctor says, let me examine it. And you say, no, I don't want you anywhere near me. And then why are you coming to the doctor? But anyhow, this has been good. This has been probably one of the better BBL, Big Daddy Linux lives that we've had in quite a while. Really like having Brian on, and really like being able to do the talks afterwards. So I think this new format is coming out pretty good. Everybody who's watching on YouTube, remember to hit that like button to get the YouTube algorithm to notice it, so we can get more people involved, and it's just going to make a bigger, stronger community. With that, have a wonderful weekend.
All right, Aris, last word.
Thank you very much for the stream. Thanks again to Brian to come in to here so we can discuss Endeavour. And thank you, Alan. I think that brought a whole different perspective to the talk this today.
Thanks.
Kevin.
Hey. Yeah, thanks everybody for showing up. Thanks for the good conversation. And I just want to remind everybody that a bunch of us usually hang out after the show in Biddle Discord, which can be found at BigDaddyLinux.com/Discord.
Perfect. Chicken.
Sorry, my mic was muted. I couldn't figure that out. Thanks everyone for being here, and there's some really, really exciting news coming around the bend with Elementary, so start stalking their Twitter because things are about to get big.
Nice. Tony, sir.
Yeah, I'd just like to say again, Rocco, thanks for doing this. I really enjoy the double whammy, although it is gone 4 a.m. in the morning, so I'm a bit tired. But I still enjoy it. And once again, Brian, keep going with Endeavour OS. I won't do the joke again, I promise. But it's really good, and I'll be interested to keep an eye on it and see what you do in the future. And I look forward to seeing everybody next week. Take care.
Thank you, Tony. Eric?
Well, thank you as always. I'm always, so happy to see all of my friends here on Big Daddy Linux, and just wanted to encourage everybody. I'm so happy to see folks come and check out Discourse and all of the different ways to get in touch, and we're meeting a lot of new people that we wouldn't have talked to outside of that. So please, if you haven't already and you're interested, stop by, say hello. We'd love to have you. Like Rocco said, these discussions we're having, we want to bring up here because they're really engaging, and we're seeing a lot of interesting things come up. So with that, have a great week. See you next week.
Brian, last word.
Thank you for having me, and everybody, great weekend. And for those who are doing the Endeavour Distro Challenge, good luck, and the community is always open for you.
Thank you for being here, Brian. Appreciate it. Barbara. You're muted, Barbara.
Yeah. I'm oblivious. What can I say? Anyway, obviously, thank you very much, Rocco. And I think I agree with Alan. We need to, if that little screen, if you're using any form of Ubuntu and that little pop-up thing, says send, they should click send. No big deal. I don't understand. And then I don't understand why people have a problem with it. So I'm one of those who sends in. I click send every time, even if it's the same one over and over again. So
that's why there's choice, Barbara.
Exactly.
Adam, last word.
Thanks for having me. Brian, thanks for showing up. Everybody, thanks for showing up. It was a good time. I'm glad we had a wonderful discussion about people clicking buttons. And everybody have a wonderful evening.
Colin, last word.
Rocco, thanks for tonight. Yeah, it's always good. And Zeb, you're offside of there. I'd like to wish Brian all the best of luck with Endeavour OS, and I will be keeping an eye on it and definitely making some more videos moving forward, because I do take an interest in that sort of thing. So best of luck for you, Brian, for that. And yes, people at Ubuntu must hate me because I just keep clicking those little buttons, and it's just, I don't know where it goes, but I'll just keep clicking it when I'm on a Ubuntu base. It's awesome. Click.
It comes out on my printer here.
That's going to be in a tweet later, right?
375 pages.
Dave, last word.
Thank you, Rocco and Zeb, for the space. Thank you all for joining us here. Thank you, Brian, for an incredible Arch distro. I have truly enjoyed using it and will keep enjoy using it. And for Alan, just remember, it's not a bug report, it's a feature report.
Dan Kelly, last word.
Rocco, thanks for having the show. We appreciate coming here and being all together. Brian, I think your distro is very well put together for a first run. There's nothing under the hood that seems to be a problem. I have a lot of fun playing with it, and keep up the good work. Alan, the bug reports, what can I tell you? If you're paranoid, send them through Tor.
Joshua, last word.
Thanks again to everyone being on the show. Yai, Endeavour is great. I can't pronounce it. I just really like it. I'm gonna give you more updates next week if I can. And I'm glad that Alan does run Ubuntu 19.04 because I thought he would try to be sneaky and run Fedora or Arch, and that wouldn't be nice. But aside, have a good night, everybody.
Bill, last word.
Rocco, Zeb, thank you for doing all the stuff you do. Eric, thank you for all the work you've done for the website and the forums. Brian, and to the rest of the Endeavour team, thank you for the work that you guys have put in. And thank you for being here to listen to, 4 hours of crazy people talking. And to Popey, thank you for talking about a very important issue with bugs. And remember, the more bugs you send, the faster Popey has to remove the thermal paste from his laptop and put it back.
What type of bugs? Bees?
All right, Big Pod, last word.
Thank you for having this, and I just want to comment on the bugs thing. Problem is, most of the time when you work, you get the bugs. So when you need to have something done, you get the bugs. So unless you're on Ubuntu, you don't really have time to send in the bugs.
All right, Paul, last word.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, Alan, last word.
Thank you, Rocco, as always, for inviting me to join your scrappy band of heroes. And I just want to say, no matter how much you hear me rant on and try and push people towards using Ubuntu, I actually don't care what distro you use. I just would rather you use Linux and use it as a good open source citizen, whichever distro you use. They're all great. Let's all work together and push in the same direction.
Indeed. Jonathan, last word.
Thanks for having me. If you would like to chat with the Scrappy Band of Heroes, you can head to Discord anytime, not just after the show.
Yeah, we have been populating Discord lately a lot. So, all right, that's going to do it for us. Brian, thank you so much for all of the hard work you do, and the rest of your team are
Joe, Kamprad, Fernando Maroto, and Manuel.
all of the hard work that all of you put into it. It is much appreciated, and especially now that it's what time for you?
It's 4:30.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry, dude, but I really appreciate you being here.
Brian, look at
We had to have you here. We're sorry about the time, though.
Okay.
Brian, look at Paul on Zoom.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. Remember, do a better job at filing bugs. That's all we can say. Until next week.
1-800-FILE-BUGS.
All right, where's my mute button? Until next week, long live Linux.